Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer.
Okay.
You could just say CMO though if you want.
Okay. That's easier.
Nobody cares about titles these days.
What's your title?
Did you hear the kick? So here's the awkwardness. I got to mute this. And that all gets to be, so this like randomness right here, it gets to be live on the video. So people get to see it. But when I go to the podcast, I'll cut all that out. So I'm going to wait just a minute to let anybody who's going to be joining us join us. And then we'll dive in. And I'm going to revisit our Instagram live because I thought that was amazing. I was so upset when it got hung up and I left my phone in that status for like 3 hours, hoping that it would get pushed through.
I can't tell you how many times Instagram has done that to me with a video where it's like processing, and then it just
never gets there.
butters.
Instagram is definitely more trendy. It seems like the more cool thing to do, but I feel much more secure with recording this to the cloud through Zoom and then knowing YouTube's recording it as well. So I'll have 2 copies of this if one were to fail. So I feel better about that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it's a little after, so let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start off with the intro and then we'll dive into our conversation. So welcome to this week's episode of the Advisor of Tomorrow podcast live. So every other Friday, this is one of those other Fridays, I'm getting great people from around finance and beyond to come drop some knowledge for us financial advisors out there, how we can, become advisors of tomorrow, not be stuck in the past. And if you're following me and you know about this podcast and this YouTube channel, you probably know Samantha Russell. I would say that in our profession, there's nobody doing content marketing better than you in 20 over 10 right now. You're all over the place. And I'm so jealous because I know you got either an intern or somebody to help you with the thumbnail pictures and the editing. And I'm like, no, I'm falling behind because I don't have that. So we've got Samantha Russell here today to talk marketing and branding and strategy for advisors. Real quick, Samantha, maybe give your background just in case somebody is watching this and this is the first time they've seen you.
I'm so excited to be here. So thank you so much. And just to make everybody, you included, feel better, go back to 20 over 10's YouTube channel and watch the very first 10, 15 videos that were posted. And that will make you feel so good because they are horrible. I recorded them in the wrong orientation. I had no editing, no thumbnails, but you know what? I left them up there because the whole point is don't let perfect be the enemy of good and done. You need to get started. Getting started is the hardest part of any new habit. So 20 over 10, if you're not familiar, we are a digital marketing platform for advisors. And it's really exciting because we started really focused on websites, and then we added in a content marketing service where we have ghost written pieces people can customize. And now just this year, we've launched Lead Pilot, which is our social media, email marketing, landing page, drip campaign platform. And all of our tools are agnostic. So you can really build on them. You can use all of them, or you can pick and choose the ones that work for you. And we practice what we preach. So anybody who is following me or the company will see that we're really big on education, giving away as much free value as we can with the hopes that you'll want to work with us and that you'll see the value there. And so that is really what we're all about.
And the reason I wanted to have you come on is, one, you work with advisors, so you're going to be able to offer a unique perspective as what you're seeing working and not working for advisors out there. But then the fact that you guys do practice what you preach, the way that 20 over 10 is growing from my standpoint, from what I can see, is got to be heavy on the weight of all the stuff that you're doing, whether that be the content itself or the targeting that I'm sure you're doing after the fact to follow us around the internet if we look at your website. So you're doing the things that I want advisors to consider to start doing and begin to go doing. And looping back to your first videos on the YouTube channel, that's the way those videos are supposed to be. Exactly. My jealousy comes from, I know what you're doing. I know what the next step is. I just can't do it. And you get to go do it because you have a bigger company and you have more resources than I do. So the jealousy is, I want to be doing that. I know about it. I just don't have it. But I did invest in a new camera, and I'm going to take more time with some editing to try to make my videos a little bit more engaging. I've been watching, in my research for cameras, I watched a lot of Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat. So right now I've got this creativity of, all right, I know I can't be as good as them when it comes to editing, but can I incorporate a little bit of the vlog style into it and still have the same message, but make it a little more entertaining. So we'll see if that ends up working and has any traction.
I mean, and even with camera, like I still record every single video on my iPhone.
Mhm.
I need to get a new camera. I have like 5 different ones I've been looking at. I'm really lucky in that I have really good lighting in the space that I record the videos in from outside. But I live in Northeast, or not North, the Northeast part of the country, central Pennsylvania. And once we hit, like November, there was no sunlight. So I just ordered some huge new lighting fixtures. It's always a step in the right direction. But yeah, you're right. It's fun to be able to try out different strategies ourselves and work with a few different advisors and kind of do experiments and see what moves the needle, and then be able to go to the larger advisor community with those findings and teach people about it.
All right, so let's teach. So before we get too deep into kind of what at the end, we're going to have things that we can walk away with. I'm going to have Samantha give some of her best practices before we wrap up. But let's just, explain to advisors why marketing is so important. I think look at my career and the trainings that I've had at different companies, marketing was never a part of it. And I guess marketing and sales might be related, but there was never, you need to be telling your story. You need to be putting yourself out there. And now that we're in an age where we can do that a little bit easier, why is it so important for advisors to consider marketing and finding time and dollars to allocate towards it?
It's such a great question. And I think for people who get marketing, it's such a no-brainer. It's like, why would you even ask the question? Same reason, like, why do you have to brush your teeth in the morning? It's just something you have to do because it's a habit that's part of owning a business. But really, I think a lot of advisors have been taught the mindset of, if you just deliver a fantastic client experience, clients will refer you and you'll grow that way. But that is putting all of the control in somebody else's hands, right? Like you have no control then on how fast you grow, like exactly who they're telling, any of those things. And when you really spend time on marketing, you're taking back the control. You can now, be in the driver's seat when it comes to the trajectory of how fast your business will grow. So at the end of the day, marketing is important. If you think that growing your business is important, then marketing needs to be important to you. And in the old days, not that long ago, you might say, well, that's selling. Like I can just sell to grow my business. But people don't listen to sales messages anymore. We don't, we're not sold to, we buy. And the difference now is we get something like a seed is planted through marketing. And then that seed is watered through content and social posts and all these things. And then when we're ready to buy, we're the ones pulling the plug. It's not because somebody has just called us 100 times that makes us buy. So that's really the way I like to think about it.
Carl Richards has a quote. I've said it before and I butcher it every single time, so I'm not going to get it right word for word, but basically his quote that I love is if you believe the work that you can do has the ability to change people's lives, you have a responsibility to let people know. And as financial advisors, maybe people want to argue we can change people's lives, but we really can. We can help people, fix their financial situation. We can help them build the lives that they want. We can help them do a number of things. So we really do have the skill set and the ability to make a huge impact. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in your work, why would you not get to the highest mountaintop and yell about it to everybody? And that's basically what I think of when it comes to marketing. And I think our conversation's naturally going to go down the path of video and social media and content. That's not to say that the traditional ways of marketing don't work, because there are advisors out there that are still growing, doing seminars. They're still growing by doing snail mail. Like there's not one way to do it, but you need to be doing marketing. And if those old ways don't excite you, maybe this new way of telling your story is exciting and it will give you the confidence to go out and start to do it. So I think that's perfect on the why. Another thing, so for those who don't know, Samantha and I had an amazing conversation back in the spring on Instagram Live, and Instagram Live did not push it to Instagram TV. Therefore, it is gone. And there was one part of our conversation that I really enjoyed hearing your perspective, because I think we're on the same plane, but the way we define things a little bit differently. But I want to talk about branding versus marketing. And I want you to go first with your kind of your definition of branding, your definition of marketing and how they're the same, how they're different, how they play together, and then I'll share mine.
Yeah. So there's actually a quote that I just read recently, which I think is great. And it was like, you have a brand if you can sell merchandise. And I think that's so true because, you know, a lot of people think they have a brand just because they had a logo that they created. That's not a brand. A logo is a part of a brand, but a brand is the story that you're telling about your business. And people cannot make connections with brands and with corporations the way they do with other human beings, where they just immediately connect with someone, they build rapport. It's a lot harder to forge a connection with a brand. It can be done, but it takes a lot longer. And storytelling is such a huge part of branding. So the difference between brand and marketing is the brand is, think of it more as like the brand is what you would be marketing. It is all the things about your business wrapped up in one, your unique value proposition, the story you tell, the image somebody has in their mind when they think about your company and what you offer, the feeling that they get, that the emotions that they feel. And marketing is then how you go and spread the word about that brand. That's the way I think about it.
I think your definition may have changed since the last time we talked about it, tweaked a little bit, because that's very similar to the way I look at things. I look
And I
at
don't even remember what I said last time. That's the problem with
and that's why, but the thing is, that's fair. Like, as you keep on doing more things and you're around it more, you're learning more. It's not, I don't think your definition changed much, but I think it became closer to the way I view it. So I view the same thing. I think if we're talking about advisors, the brand is you, the advisor. I think your brand is just basically your reputation, and you have to package up who you are, what you're about, and tell that story. And then that through marketing, through telling that story, which is the marketing part, I think that's how your brand develops. So I think I think the brand is something that is developed over time. It's not even something that I can go out and say, I want to be this, this, and this. It's more of, this is who I am. Let me consistently tell that story in different ways. And if I tell it enough, and the key is, the story I'm telling has to match the experience when somebody comes in. If story told matches experience in, and you do that over time, then that becomes your brand, and then it solidifies it. And then you can start going to sell the product. You can sell the t-shirts, the stickers, whatever it might be. So I agree that branding is the development, marketing is telling it. And I also think that it's very important for advisory firms. Not every advisor that you work with, I'm sure, is a solo advisor. So you have teams, you have
Right.
firms. I think when it comes to the branding, I would encourage firm owners to establish a firm level brand. So here's our company, here's what we stand for. And I would really encourage you to allow your individual advisors, even staff members, if they're interested, to develop their own personal brand that falls under the umbrella. It doesn't have to be about the CEO. It doesn't have to be about the firm only. Let your team shine, because they are going to attract an audience that someone else may not, or the firm itself may not naturally attract. But because that person's out telling their story, building their brand, it's all going to come back. And I think that is the way firms should really consider growing going forward. And the final thought on it is, because this is your show, not mine. I want you to talk, but I really have a strong belief in this. I think that going forward, advisors want to tell their story, and not every advisor is a business owner, but they still want to be able to go out there and talk about their passions about planning, how they help people. They love the firm they work for. They want to share that. Leadership should let that happen. So long as it speaks to the overall brand of the firm, I think that's a great way to establish your content marketing on a firm level.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny, years ago when we first started 20 over 10, we were just starting to see this happen in some cases, where a company, advisory firm would come to us and say, we want to have like a firm website, but then 4 of our advisors each want their own blog, because they're targeting different audiences and they want to be able to brand it and push out information. And it makes sense, because it does not bode well for your company if somebody lands on the homepage of your website and it's like, we serve medical professionals and academics and business owners and entrepreneurs and people that are 65 and older. It looks so confusing, and it looks like you're trying to, cast a wide net instead of fish with a spear. So you really, if you allow people to have their own individual voice, though, it makes sense. Like, oh, within this firm, they do serve these different audiences. different advisors really specialize in that group.
Mhm.
And that makes it so much more salient. It makes more sense. And yes, that person, I think a lot of times the reason the firm can be hesitant is like, well, what if that person leaves then? And then they
Mhm.
take all those people with them because they've built up this big brand. And that, yeah, that can happen. But at the same time, there's so much that you risk by not letting people do that. And if you want to attract good people, you have to allow them to do that.
And I think that that's part of the risk of being the business owner. Make it such a great place that they don't want to leave. Give them the opportunity to feel like they own, maybe give them ownership in the firm and build it so that they don't ever want to leave. And that's easy for me to say. I just made my first hire. Thomas has been here 2 months now, so we'll see a few years down the road. But my thought is, he's got his blog. That's his blog. I kind of stole that from Peter Lazaroff over at Plan Corp. He told his story on Kitsis's podcast about how he brought his brand to Plan Corp. He has his website. It's his own thing. He had his newsletter. It's his. And if he left, he gets to go with it. And that's what they plan on doing with advisors they bring on. We'll set you up. We'll help you develop your brand. And if you leave, it's yours. We don't want to take that. And I think you just have to have confidence in yourself that you can provide everything that your employees want to stay. And if they leave, then they leave, and you move forward. So we'll
And
see.
I was excited to get to meet Thomas
Mhm.
virtually. He seems like he is really excited about marketing and branding too. And I love like the visuals he's been creating for his posts. And it's fun to see somebody come on and from the get-go be so all in on digital marketing.
So for me, it's fun because now I have somebody to go back and forth with now. So now we're doing videos together. We're going to be starting a podcast it's for RLS Wealth, but it's going to be centered around money and purpose, which is the theme of the new brand of the firm. So now I have somebody to delegate to, like he can do some episodes, I can do some, but we can do them together. So for me, I look at all the firms that have been out there that have multiple people creating content, and I've been jealous that I had nobody to go back with. That's why I did so many videos with other advisors, and I will continue to do that. But now it's nice to have somebody there. And day one, we launched his blog. I wanted him doing it from the get-go. That was one of the things I liked about his desire to leave where he was and get to a place where he can do more of a life planning approach. But then he wanted to market and sell, and that's perfect. Like that fits right on in. So yeah, it's been fun, and he's been doing a great job. I think it'll be a good fit and be in wealth. And I kind of get excited about, can I help Thomas develop his story and do it faster than I did, and then elevate him to be somebody that's looked at and growing business faster because I can learn from my mistakes and help him go faster. So it's
So
fun.
I have to ask you, when you were hiring for that position, then were you just as focused on someone who could write and tell a story and was all in on the marketing side as you were hiring, for the financial planning side of things?
I was not hiring at the time that I met Thomas.
Oh,
So, but if I was going to be hiring, that would have been a quality. I wouldn't have sacrificed quality of advisor or desire to learn to be an advisor just for marketer. Like I wanted it to be both. And luckily he is both. I mean, he's young, but he already understands he shares the same views as I do of the way that we should be planning and helping clients. So the fact that he understands that gives you the foundation to be able to help him grow into the right type of advisor. He's already got that skill set and understanding. So that box checked. And then the fact that he wanted to do the marketing and has content, that other box checked. But he actually was introduced to me locally from another friend. And I had at that time, maybe a month prior, decided I was stopping the growth of my RIA, that I was going to take on referrals, 1 or 2 a year. And my professional growth was going to be helping other advisors, consulting, the AGC, and I was just going to maintain the RIA. I told my clients that. I did a video. I told them about it. I put it out there in a blog. And like a month later, I meet Thomas and I'm like, I don't think I don't want this, but I also am the type of person that I believe people, opportunities, they get introduced in your life for a reason. And I couldn't find a reason not to bring him on, except for that wasn't what I was planning on doing. So
the universe just came back at you.
I let it. Yeah. So something I do a lot, I pivot. I'm not afraid to say, this is the path I'm going. And then maybe that's the wrong path, maybe a new path and better, I'll go over. And none of those pivots ever hurt clients, which is what's the most important part of things. So bringing Thomas on is actually better. There's another person to help clients, a person who can help me with the planning. So far it's been all good. But the marketing, if I were to hire, it would not be a must, but it would be something that I would really look for. And if it came down to two great candidates that I thought they were equal planners and one wanted to market and wanted to do content, I would tip my hat that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go dive into what you're seeing advisors do that we'll just say is wrong. Maybe wrong is the wrong word, that could be improved upon, or things that don't really work like they used to. Or I think the worst thing people do in the wrong is not doing anything. So like that, there's that as well. But what are you seeing as you start working with advisors, or you just observe from your CMO chair at 20 over 10 that you're seeing that advisors should consider abandoning or changing? What are we doing wrong?
So a couple things that come to mind. The first one is just this like pervasive belief that, I'm a financial advisor. I'm not a marketer. It's not my job. I don't want to be involved in it. I want to outsource it. And at the end of the day, as we said earlier, like people hire you because of you, typically. Like, so much of investment management and the tangible parts that actually can be commoditized. So you're really building a relationship with somebody, and so in order to build that relationship, that's what you need to market and sell. So you as the advisor need to be really heavily involved in crafting that story and that brand. It's fine to hire a marketing agency to do it for you, but to say like, I'm never going to record a video, I'm never going to write a piece of content, like I'm going to hire this company and they're just going to do it all for me, it's not going to move the needle the way it will if you are involved and you're reviewing it and you're making sure it's your voice. So that's definitely the first one. Like if you want to do it and do it right and see results, be prepared to devote just a little bit of time, overseeing things and then hiring a good team to execute. That would be the first thing that comes to mind.
I'm gonna pause you. I want to go down that path a little bit further. So we'll
Okay.
come back. We'll at least get a couple things that we can improve on. I am a firm believer that you should create your own content. That being said, I know not everybody's a content creator. That's not their creative gene. They don't enjoy doing it. I do know there are advisors that are leveraging other platforms like 20 over 10 or Snappy Kraken to help out. I put the pressure on you guys, the teams out there creating the content for the advisor, to make that content to where it doesn't seem canned. And from what I can tell you, that's not what you guys are putting out there. That's not what the Snappy Kraken's putting out there either. But we can go through LinkedIn because that's where you see it most of the time. And you can tell it's the stuff that corporate wrote that's canned. Yep. And I think that you're better off not even posting anything, because that just to me comes across as disingenuous. I'm just posting to say I'm active on social media, but it's not really bringing any value to anybody, let alone letting anybody get to know who you are. But I wanted to get your pushback on me to say that I think you should create your own content, or find somebody who can take your voice and craft it so that maybe you're not writing it, but it does sound like you. And you guys kind of are in that middle. So what's the pushback to creating your own content?
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, we sell content products, but at the end of the day, original content will always be best. Like there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In the hierarchy of all content, original content's best. However, we do know that for the vast majority of advisors, there's just no way that they're going to push out a piece every single week. Mm-hmm. And so what we have really, really focused on is how can we give somebody a document that's a living, breathing, great starting point for them, mm-hmm. that it's so much easier to take something that's been written and edit it and make it your own than to start from scratch. And there are people who just use what we've created because it does come with everything you need. But when I see it really working, when people are getting engagement on LinkedIn and people are commenting on their posts, it's when they make it their own. So they change the headline, they update the image. When they share it on LinkedIn, they don't just share it with the script we've already included, but they talk about it from their point of view. And one of the biggest mistakes, again, mistake number 2 that I see people make is they are always writing in such a professional way. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, to be noticed, you need to write like you talk. You need to write as though you're talking to somebody in a conversation. And so if you wouldn't say out loud what you've written, people are going to be glazed over when they're reading it. And this goes for everything, like the websites that I see financial advisors have, their blog posts, their social media posts, they sound just so boring and bland, and you can make them really fun, but you need to change it up to be that you're writing like you talk. So yeah, I mean, in the terms of the content hierarchy, original content's always best. I do think, having something, whether you hire a ghostwriter or you use a service like ours and you customize it, is the next best thing for sure.
I didn't realize you could customize yours. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. So we are like, knowing what I know about content marketing, could never offer a service where we just said, this is what it is and use it. Like I just couldn't in my heart stand behind that as a product. So from day one, like you could literally strip down the entire article. Let's say it was like 5 tips for Social Security, figuring out the right time to claim Social Security. You could take all the paragraph text out and just leave the 5 points. You could change all the points. You can upload a video of yourself talking about it. Like whatever you want to do. It's really the way I see it, as a lot of the content that we put out at 20 over 10, somebody else, like I'll give them my outline and then somebody will create the first draft for me. And then I'll go in and edit it and make it how I would talk about it. And so this to me was my vision of how we could do that for advisors.
I like that. And another approach that would be somewhat similar is you don't always have to come up with the original content, whether it be editing something like that, or you find a real good blog post that somebody else wrote that you want to expand upon. So I did that. Like I love Ben Carlson's writing, and like a lot of his ideas generate a new idea. So rather than writing, the 7 things about whatever, he got 7 of them, but I have one more. So, I was reading this article. I thought these things were great, but it made me think about one more thing I would add. Here's that one thing. It's a short piece. It's in my voice. It's my original thought, but I didn't have to write the whole thing. I didn't have to do all of the research that he did, and I can leverage it. And if you're going to do that, I would also say, make sure you link back to their blog and do things friendly, because that's one of the things that in building out my network of peers, it was unintentional, but my mixtape, I have no proof, but I know it is a big driver for some of the connections I've made because I was sharing other people's content. So be polite, highlight it, link back to it, give the person all the credit, but then use that to jumpstart your own idea. And it may help you get something in there to fill the blanks.
You just made me think of something too. That's like, I know we're not talking about tips yet, but I don't want to forget it. A really good tip that I've seen a couple of people we work with do really well, which is if you are really based and focused on your local area, which I know so a lot of advisors are, there's many more getting clients all over the country, but if you're in St. Louis and you're a pillar of the St. Louis community and that's something you do, if you have a weekly blog post where you just round up like what's going on in St. Louis, a great new restaurant that opened, it doesn't have to be anything about financial planning or investment management.
It'd be better if it wasn't, honestly.
Yeah, and you link out to it. You will get so many people looking forward to that because people are always wanting to know what's new in my community, what are the businesses, and like write a quick blurb about it. And then all these businesses now become aware of you. And there's probably like 5 advisors we work with who I've talked with the strategy about who are implementing it. And they can't believe how well it's taking off in terms of people becoming aware of their company, following them on social, subscribing to their newsletter. So, think outside the box. Just think, what do people want to read about? And that's what you talk about.
And to build upon that, if you're the financial expert that is bringing non-financial content to them to enrich their lives, like I feel like that shows you're taking more of an interest, even though you don't know them, you're taking more of interest in their well-being than just your own well-being. If you're always giving finance, and never anything else, and then another advisor is giving finance, but hey, here's other things that will help your family make memories because you didn't know about this parade or something that might be going on. Like that would probably tilt me to go to the person that gave me something else that wasn't in their interest. They have no interest. There's no benefit. There's no benefit for me to send you to a parade. I just want you to have a good time.
Yeah.
Versus I'm always giving you everything about finance. So I think that that's another way to differentiate yourself from everybody else, and also shows that you're human. You're not always thinking about money all the time. Like you want to enjoy life as well. Here's things to help you enjoy your life. So I like that. I used to try to do that better on my mixtape, but they were getting too long. I wanted to do like finance articles, travel articles, and then like wellness. And I did that early on, but then it just got to be too much. And I spend most of my time reading other finance, behavioral type things. So it's just easier for me to stick to that for my mixtape, but I like that idea.
I mean, it's funny. The 2 most like viewed and comment on posts that I've ever posted on LinkedIn and Twitter had nothing to do with marketing, financial services. One was about the way I write out of office messages when I take a family vacation or time off, because I hate that people always say, I'm out of the office and have no access to email, because we all have access to email no matter where you are on this planet. So we change it up to say, like, I'm, trading in, looking at a computer screen for looking at palm trees and my baby's faces on the beach, and I'm not going to look at my email. And people just loved it, and it blew up. And then on Twitter, I responded to, I don't know if you know James Clear from Atomic Habits, but just
Yep.
recently I responded to a post he had, and I talked about how we have this, like, every month in our family, we work on a word, a value, and we post it above our
I saw that.
calendar. And then we talk about it at dinner with our kids, and that's how we teach our kids different values. And it has been my most popular tweet to date. So again, like, I think to your point, just be an interesting human being someone wants to spend, like, would want to have dinner with. Like, that's what your goal should be.
Right. And the ones that you just quoted that had the most impact are also ones that are more personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I can echo that the blog posts that are most successful for me are the ones that are most personal. And so the beauty in it is you don't want to write every single one to be personal, because now it's a personal blog and people are going to quit following you because they want that expertise. But if it's a mixture of education, explaining things that are going on, and then a look into my life as well, like that helps that relationship. And people care about people. Like they care much more, and they get more engaged with the personal side of things than they do about the number stuff. Like the number stuff is to help educate them a little bit and also give you that credibility. And then the personal stuff is really what makes people choose you. So I'm not surprised. And I almost responded to that tweet to James Clear, because we have a board that we got, I think my wife got off of Etsy, and you could customize it. So it's a calendar. So we put the month up there, all the activities, games, and then you could customize sections of it. So we have like menu, we have chores, and then we have one that's for grateful, that we've been bad about it lately, but we're supposed to write every week. Everybody writes one thing that they're grateful for,
Love that.
just to keep going. So kind of in line with what you guys are doing. So yeah, so I'm not surprised that the personal stuff
I
is
mean,
what resonates.
a video that I have coming out next week that I recorded is about, like, a very simple, really simple. So subscribe to the 20 over 10 YouTube channel if you want to see it. It'll come out soon. It's a really, really simple 5-day a week getting started calendar for advisors to follow. Like, what should I do on Monday? What should I do on Tuesday? And Mondays, create your original piece of content for the week, whether it's a podcast, a video, a blog post, and then how do you share it throughout the week? And on Friday, every Friday, I have share, like, a Friday's your fun day, share something personal, share something about your community, about your office, about your dog, about your kids, about what you're looking forward to, a vacation, a book you read, it doesn't matter. But, like, we build that into the schedule for that very reason.
And when you're sharing the personal side, I think you share up to the point that you're comfortable with. So
Mm-hmm.
not everybody's going to be as comfortable as I am showing pictures of the boys all the time. Like every Friday we go to the coffee shop, and so I post a
Your donut.
picture. And if I don't post it, I'll have people that'll mention, where's this week's picture? Or I do the same thing in my mixtape. I put 3 pictures from the week at the bottom of the mixtape. And I know I have clients that the only reason they open my email on Sunday morning is to see pictures of the boys. And if I don't do it, they ask me about it. Where were the pictures? Where was the mixtape? Because they want it. So you don't have to go that far. If you're only comfortable sharing your love of a sport or something like that, just anything that you're comfortable doing from a personal standpoint is a good thing.
Yep.
All right, let's get a few more things we can work on before we get to the things people are doing good, and then some more tips.
Okay. Yes. So another thing that I have on here, I know this, we've already talked about social media a little bit, but is just posting and posting and posting on social media, and not being social on social media. So, like, never replying to anyone else's posts, never liking posts, never tagging people. I equate it to, if you're just posting your own content all the time, it'd be like going to a networking event and holding a billboard up that's like, an advertisement for your company, and walking through the room, never talking to a single person, and then leaving, and everyone's like, who is that? Who is that guy? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I see it, and I see it happen so much. And it doesn't take long. Like, build in, even if you're not a social media person, you don't like it, build in time to, at the beginning of the week, even if it's 3 times a week to start, if you're really, you've never been on social, but optimally, I say 3 times a day, like morning, lunchtime, and in the evening, spend 5 minutes and just go through your feed, like, comment, share, message people. And that reciprocity you will build will be so valuable, because now when you're posting things, people will actually engage with what you're posting too.
When it comes to social, how do you help advisors figure out where they should be posting and engaging?
It all comes down to who you're trying to target. So if you're really, focused on getting more quotes in, publications, and you want to be featured more and build up some backlinks, like Twitter is where you need to go to connect with journalists and media and peers who might be writing things. If you are focused on people who own businesses, then LinkedIn's going to be better. If you're focused on a local community and people that are over 55, Facebook's going to be better. If you want to target people like me and you, Instagram's probably better. So, obviously know your audience. And this also comes down to what you said earlier about letting each advisor have their own presence. That extends to a blog and also their own social profiles, so that, people who fit that audience for that individual advisor can follow that advisor on social media too.
One thing to work on that I would throw out there that I was guilty of when I got started is, as you begin to get started doing this, you're going to have people that you naturally look at, that you like the way they do things, you like their style, and you kind of try to be like them. I think that as you build out your brand and your strategy and the content you're creating, you've got to make sure that you're doing it your way that works for you. You can't recreate anybody else. So nobody else is going to be, take your pick of whoever it might be. Like Morgan Housel is one of my favorite writers. And
Yeah.
I actually tried to write a blog post in the way that Morgan did, and it's still sitting there because I can never do it. Like there's a point where he would use like a story, like use some research about animals and then turn that into something about investing. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to try to do that. And it doesn't work for me. That's not the way I work. And it took me time, but I figured out what my style is, how I want to write, what I want to write about, and then what are the things I want to highlight other people, because that's not my style. And some of it's going to be experimenting, but I would just say, don't force it. Like let yourself figure out what works for you. I forced too long trying to write and be a way that was not unique to me. And then once I finally gave up on that and realized, hey, I'm not trying to impress these people. I'm trying to, establish my voice and grow my client base. I'm just going to write the way that I feel comfortable. And then that's when it got so much easier. So if you're trying to be somebody or be like somebody, it's going to make it a lot harder. Just do what you think is right, learn what works, tailor it a little bit, change it a little bit, and then you're going to actually find your groove, and then it'll be a lot easier.
That's such a good tip. And the other thing I think that can be hard for people is they don't realize that people aren't analyzing every single word in your blog post. So like people will not publish things because they're so worried it's not perfect. And I'm not saying to publish sloppy work, but again, don't let perfect be the enemy of good and done. Like content is a beast, and you have to feed that beast all the time. And so if you're waiting for it to be perfect, I can't tell you how many videos where I'll record it and I'll be like, oh, it's just not exactly what I want. But you know what? The deadline is today and I need to get it up there. And the message still has great education for people. So yeah, I fumbled over one word, but I'm not going to go back and re-record the whole thing. Like this is good enough. And I also think, especially on video, when you kind of make a flub and then you laugh and you say it the right way, it just makes you more likable, because people are
Exactly.
like,
Exactly.
this is a real person. It's not a highly produced video.
If you go through a video perfect, you're going to seem like a robot, because
Mhm.
you're going to be thinking about it and memorizing everything. Where if you have that slip up, I agree. I think that especially with writing, like no, you get a free pass on a blog when it comes to grammar. Like if you put the wrong there in, no one's going to call you out. For
Right.
me, the big fear is if I'm ever doing anything that's data heavy or analytical or,
Oh yeah.
calculations, I want to make sure that those facts are right. So make sure the facts are right, but then don't worry about the right comma placement or the right, spelling. Like as long as it's not consistent, you're going to get a free pass. But just get it out there. And I
You will have
agree on video.
subreaders that tell you, like we have people that will email and say, hey, I found a mistake, because sometimes we're doing things quickly.
Mhm.
You spelled there wrong, the wrong way,
Right.
and we'll go back and fix it. But yeah, I totally agree. Get the facts right.
Mhm.
Don't that's not what I meant. I just mean, like, if you're putting an
No.
image in and the image isn't sizing correctly, so it's a little smaller than what you would have liked,
Mhm.
don't spend an hour trying to make it the width of the page in your blog post. Like
Right.
that image size isn't going to make or break somebody reading it and appreciating the message. there are times and places, like if you're running an ad and that ad's going to appear everywhere, yes, the image size is really important, but in a blog post, there's a lot more forgiveness.
And on writing, you can use programs like Grammarly and stuff that'll catch a lot of things as well. That'll help out. But yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that I knew what you
No,
meant. I
I
just want
know.
to clarify because there will be people that will be hung up on making sure they have the right wording. Like as long as the thought's out there, get it out there. And a lot of our content is very short lived. Yes, it's going to live on the blog. Yes, it's going to be on Twitter, but like once it gets buried in a feed, most people aren't searching through it. And as you write more blog posts, it gets moved further down. So it's not like it's going to be there in everybody's site all the time to where
Right.
it's glaring. You're going to write a new blog post and people are going to forget about that one. So yeah, definitely don't want to get hung up on that. Any other areas to work on?
I mean, yeah, that you said not creating original content, that's a big one. SEO is another one. It's funny. Whenever I'm with like certain people, there's a lot of people that believe that you shouldn't worry about SEO at all. And I think there's so much like low hanging fruit with
Mhm.
SEO in the advisory world, because so many individual advisor firms don't know anything about it, that if you do just like some really basic stuff, it can help you so much. So spending a little bit of time focus on that. I think the last thing I would just say is getting, not being afraid to get some help. So, this stuff is important and it is how you're going to grow your business, but I'm not suggesting that this needs to become your full-time job. Even hiring an intern, right? So you create the content, but you don't have time to upload the file to LinkedIn and structure the blog post and find images on Unsplash and all that. Okay, that's fine, but you can hire someone to help you do that.
A good transition from what to work on to what's working well, because I think some people could work on it. Some people are doing well. How important are like the titles of
Blog
blog
title,
posts? Yes. Because I hate, and I know they work, I hate the
click
7 things, the 5 things. It just seems so cheesy. Like I want to write a blog post title that's more, I won't say ambiguous, but it's like you may not know what it means. I hope that it hooks you in. And then what I use to put it on Twitter, or the introduction I put on LinkedIn, allows you to make the connection between the content to the title.
yeah.
I know those things work. I hate them. It seems so cheesy.
Yeah, it can be cheesy and but it works, like, so there's two things to think about with titling. It's like, what keywords do you want to rank for from an SEO perspective? So you want to include those in, but then when you go to share it on social media, what will make people click on it? So you want to put the keywords in that would make somebody find it, but then what would make someone click it? So for instance, I remember I wrote a contributor piece to an industry pub, and it was just about like basically how you can, if you haven't already, like I've been talking about the digital referral shift for years now, and how the model of referrals has changed, and the role that social media and websites and SEO plays in this. And I basically was like, I'm going to rehash all of this for you in this article, because now it is in your face. There's no more denying that this isn't happening, because all the other ways of prospecting are out the window during this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And the publisher changed the title of what I had, which I can't even remember what the original title was, to "Which Advisors Will Be Victim of the Pandemic." And it was like their whole like take on it was, that's something people will click on. And I was like really sort of, oh man, but it's their publication, they're able to do that. And I didn't know about it till after they'd already changed it. But publishers know what people click on and how to get people to click. So you need to be comfortable with your own titles. And if like from an SEO perspective, that's a terrible title, because someone's not going to search that and
Mm-hmm.
find your blog. But on social media or on a big publication, it catches someone's attention and would make them click it. So titles are really important. And you, as an advisor, have to think about both the social side and the SEO side.
So maybe the compromise is I do the title that I want to do, but then on social, I do the 7, like I introduce it as it. So then
Yes.
the post catches your attention. The title stays in line with what I would have been pissed if I were you on the pub, because what they did is they did the typical media thing where let's use fear to drive clicks, which I mean, no publication's asking me to write for them, so I can say that. So I can make them mad. You don't need to say anything because I don't want you to be kicked off of their writing list. But
Right.
but yeah, and I've read how important they are. Same thing with emails. Like if you're running an email campaign or email newsletter, that the titles of the newsletters are email is very important as well. And that's just something that I struggle with. So I don't spend a lot of time on it, but I also wonder sometimes if I did, or maybe if I had paid somebody, like, here's my blog post, here's what I want to call it, go out to Fiverr and find somebody who's a headline writer and say, write me a headline for this, and then be able to switch
Have
it out.
you ever used CoSchedule has a tool called the Headline Analyzer?
No.
It's a really awesome tool. So coschedule.com, I think is their website. And
I'll
they
link to
have
it.
this headline analyzer and you can put your title in and it'll rank it for you based on like SEO, click worthiness, a bunch of different things.
Mhm.
And if the score is above a 70, then you know it's a good title. If it's below a 70, you need to work on it. So you can try a bunch of different variations. So we do, like, all the content in the library that we have for advisors, we will analyze our titles in CoSchedule before we put them in.
I'll link to that in the show notes. That right there may have been the most valuable thing on this podcast, because I've never heard of it and I've never heard anybody else talk about it. So that'll be something that people can walk away with. We've mentioned SEO a lot. I just want to throw my 2 cents out there on it. I used to be in the camp of I never wanted to write for SEO, because the thought of writing with an intent of trying to rank didn't align with my desire to write to educate. Like I didn't think I could write the way I write and sound while trying to keep keywords in mind. But I do agree with the low-hanging fruit of doing little things that don't compromise my writing style to help me get found. And one of the SEO hacks, I guess we call it SEO hack, that you shared on the live, that as soon as we were done, I went and fixed, is the Google business.
Yes.
So for anybody, I know you wrote about it afterwards. I was so mad because I think you wrote a post or did a video about it shortly after we did our Instagram live. And maybe you talked about it before, but I hadn't heard it before. I didn't know it.
Okay.
So I was like, oh yes, that was on my mind first, and then no one can see it because it's gone. So I want to be able to brag that I had that great idea, broke first on my Instagram live.
I've
But
talked
tell
about
people
it.
about that.
I actually have talked about it like nonstop, but that's the beast of content, right? Like there's
Mhm.
so many things you've probably talked about or I've talked about that we just haven't seen. And so you have to always be repackaging your content in different ways to hit it home to people. So what we're talking about here, for those of you that aren't aware, is anyone who owns a business. If you have a website, you have a location on Google Maps, there is something called Google My Business. And you go and you literally go to Google and search Google My Business. It will come up and they'll tell you all the instructions on how to do it. But you want to claim your business with Google, and you're telling Google directly what your business is about, what hours you're open, where people can find more information, your website, your phone number. You can put some of your, they actually allow you now, which is different, I think, since last time we talked, to upload like long form blog posts so people can see that right on your, it only lasts for a period of time and then it like expires. So you have to continually refresh it. But if you've ever gone and searched for like burger restaurant and on that sidebar, a listing comes up with a map and the name of a couple of locations and you can call directly or hit the website, that's the Google My Business listing. And it's so crucial for local SEO. So if you really want a lot of people when they're searching financial advisor Phoenix for your business to come up, you need to optimize and claim your profile. So what you want to do is claim it. You want to add at least 6 photos. So it can be anything from a picture of your logo, the outside of your building, the inside, a picture of your team, every individual team member, whatever you need to do to make sure you have at least 6 photos. Then you want to make sure the hours of operation are up to date. All the contact information is up to date. And then the thing I see a lot of people make the mistake of, there's something called NAP data, name, address, phone number. And you want to make sure that that is incredibly consistent. So if you on your website have Russell Wealth Management LLC, that LLC better be on your Google My Business listing and the Chamber of Commerce and everywhere else. If you spell out suite, SUITE, don't shorten it to STE period somewhere else. So NAP data needs to be exactly the same everywhere online. And once you do those things, you can also start getting Google reviews. So in 2020, what we call social proof is incredibly important. Nobody believes the business's claims about how great they are. They want to hear from other people that have worked with that business. So a Google review is not the same thing as a testimonial. I don't want everyone yelling at us after this episode's over, because Google is the publisher and they are in control. So you cannot prevent anyone from leaving a review. The main thing you want to do to be compliant is don't ask for reviews in writing. Don't thumbs up or reply to any reviews, whether positive or negative, and do not republish the reviews anywhere else.
See, I had my Google business claimed, but I didn't have pictures. So I went in and put pictures on like the day after we did it.
Oh,
And
good.
I don't know if in doing that I triggered something, but maybe because nobody was clicking and looking, but I start getting reports now of how many times my Google business page has been viewed. And it's like 40, 50 times a week consistently. So I don't know why I started getting that report. Again, either by me putting more stuff on there, it triggered it, or just nobody was getting to see my firm off of Google searches before. But
Had you
since
ever
that,
claimed it before?
yeah, I claimed it before. I had it claimed. Yeah, I did that early on. I just did that because my wife had claimed her business, so I knew you're supposed to do that. But I will say that I have got, since we did Instagram Live, and since I've updated the pictures, I've had 2 prospective clients that have both become clients that found me via Google search, and it was
Whoa.
Fisher. So I didn't dig deep enough to find out was it the blog or how they got to it, but
Yeah.
it was Fisher's. It was after I did the Google. I'm gonna have to believe that was part of it. So, but that was the one I didn't know about, was the pictures. I thought that was huge.
I mean, it is huge because most people don't upload pictures, and that
Mhm.
is considered a complete profile once you've done at least 6.
Mhm.
So, of everybody listening here today, I bet you 95% of them have not done this, and so
Right.
you're going to be head and shoulders above the other people in your local area if you do it.
What other tips you have?
Um, I just actually did, this is coming top of mind, a social media webinar, and we were talking about like different tips and things in there. And I told people that were, on the call to remember that comments are the currency of social media. And you should always be striving to get comments on all of your posts. And that's really going to help. If social media is not moving the needle for you, you need more comments and you need more engagement. So I had a couple different tips of how to get more comments, but one of them is I always see people post with a link where they're taking them off of the platform. So you're
Mhm.
posting a link and you have to click it, and then you're going to leave LinkedIn or leave Facebook. Well, Facebook and LinkedIn, they want you to stay on their platform as long as possible. So posts that do not take people off the page typically get higher boosting in the algorithm.
I was
And
going to ask you about this because Thomas and I have been talking about this, and I think he probably learned it from you, that he's been putting his in the comments, and he said he's got more engagement that way. So we've been like beta testing our posts on LinkedIn, really is where we're doing it, to see which one works. For me, I'm like, the way I've done everything and have figured out the little bit that I know about this stuff is I just think about like what works for me and what works for people that I know. I'm not quick to go check the comments to go click a link. So like, that's why I've never thought to do that, but I guess it's working, or you just have to play the game of direct people to the comments and let them know. And if you can hook them enough, then they'll go ahead down to comments, because it's not that much further down.
well, and the other thing though is, so Taylor from
Mhm.
Define Financial, who
He's an all right guy.
your buddy, he and I did a webinar. And so after the webinar was over, it was a great piece of content. I don't gate content. Okay. So I don't gate content because I don't know if you know Dave Gerhardt from Drift. He's like one of my favorite CMOs to follow. Actually, he left Drift just recently and went with another company. But anyways, he has like a whole thing about why you shouldn't gate content. And I agree with it. And so we don't gate content on 20 over 10's website for the most part. But anytime we do a webinar right after the fact, instead of just sharing the link to it on social media, we will say, and I did this with Taylor, and he was like, that's a great idea. We'll give a recap of what we talked about, what you would
Mhm.
learn if you had attended or watched it. And then we'll say, we actually have the replay available. Comment below with your top question or what you'd most like to learn. So we might say, here are the 4 big takeaways Taylor gave us. 1, 2, 3, 4. Comment below with which number would be most impactful for you to learn about in your business, and we'll send you the recording. Now, the recording is just a live blog on the 20 Over
Mhm.
10 blog that anyone could go and get without having to comment. But we're lazy. We all want something given to us. We want to be spoon fed. So there's 2 things that make that work. Number 1, I'm not telling them to write out something and have to have original thought when they're on their social media lunch break.
Mhm.
They just have to click 1, 2, 3, or 4. Right. So I've already given them like the 4 takeaways. So they're like, number 1, thanks for sending me the guide. Or number 2, hey, Taylor's my man. And we got, I think, something crazy like 15,000 views and 100
Wow.
comments on that post, because the more people comment on it, the
shows.
more LinkedIn's going to keep showing it, because LinkedIn wants to show people posts that have a lot of comments because they think it's a highly engaging post. So there's lots of little strategies like that that you can do. If you have a great blog post, don't just give it away. Say to people, I have a full guide for you on how to do X on my blog. Comment below and I'll send it your way. And then you can just direct message it to them after they comment.
The DMs are very valuable. A lot of relationship building and connections get made in direct messages. I'm going to give that a try, especially on some of my advisor focused stuff. So I want to end with, because we're bumping up on the hour, I want to end, you've mentioned it at the beginning and you mentioned it just now about not, putting things behind a gate. Give, I think you said give, ask. Is that what you said on Twitter the other day?
Give, ask. Yeah.
Okay. So Gary V says give, take. I like give, ask better as well, but I'm in the same camp. I think that what we create, we should just put out there with no hooks behind it. And the reason we're doing it is to help educate, help people learn more, and then ultimately hope that will lead to business. And why do you believe in the give, ask? And maybe explain exactly what that means.
So what I mean by that is you give out a great piece of content, you give another great piece of content, you put a great video up, you're educating people. And then the ask part comes in where, let's say somebody leaves a comment. And so Justin comments and he's like, I love that Google My Business tip. Thanks for sharing that on my LinkedIn post. I could direct message him and say, hey, so glad that you loved that Google My Business post. If you are, looking for help marketing your firm at any point, you should check out our company 20 over 10. So we might have been friends on LinkedIn and connected for 2 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he's reading all my stuff and commenting all the time. And now I feel like, okay, he's asked me enough questions and I've responded to them, that now I can say, hey, if you ever want to work with us, here's how you can find out more. Mm-hmm. That is the give, ask. Or it could be something like somebody subscribed to your newsletter and you can see all the content that they're opening and reading. And then they send you a question like, hey, on your last article about this, I have a question about that. When you respond, you can say, here's the answer. And also, this is something that we really work in depth with people just like you on during the retirement planning process. Here's more info on that if you're interested, and send them a link to the page of your website about that. Mm-hmm. So the ask is coming after you've established that you're giving them value for free.
I have a mentor who, as the mentor, I obviously respect him very much, but he said that like when we give people value, we're making deposits into the, bank of goodwill. Mm-hmm. So as we, create this blog post, you give away these tips to help people, you're putting deposits into the bank of goodwill. And eventually it's okay for you to go into the bank and every once in a while take a withdrawal. And that withdrawal is the ask. So you are giving all of us advisors massive value through all of the content you create that you should never hesitate to DM anybody and say, hey, this is what 20 over 10 needs. Just want to let you know if we can ever help. Like, you've earned that right because you've given us so much free value. And I think that really works. And I really like that because ultimately the reason I started doing content was I wanted to share my voice. I wanted to help people. And then I hoped that it would lead to business.
Right.
And I think that sometimes you've got to go into things with a little bit of hope and not be so calculated. And that's where I think the give, ask comes in. I'm going to give. And eventually one day the right time to ask will come. And because I've done so much for you, you almost feel guilty not at least hearing me out to see if it works. And then your product or my services are so good that person would be stupid to say no.
Right. I can't tell you how many times somebody's like, well, you've helped me so much. The least I could do is go and get a demo.
Exactly. So I think give, ask is a great ending point because that just speaks to the way I view things. And I really like it. And you said it at the beginning and the end. So I think that's great. I think we could have easily gone for another hour with a bunch of other stuff. But I want to thank you for giving me a second shot at this to get something out. I think this one was better than the last one. So that works out to be a good thing. Let everybody know where they can follow you if they're not already following you.
Yes. So I am the most active on LinkedIn and Twitter. On Twitter, the handle is Samantha20, TWENTY, all spelled out. And LinkedIn is Samantha C. Russell. I'm also sharing a new video every single week on our YouTube channel, which is just 20 over 10. And then 20over10.com is our website.
I will link to all of those on the show notes over on justincastelli.io/blog. The podcast will be up on Monday. And if you're listening to this on Monday and you did not get my Advisor of Tomorrow newsletter in your inbox today, go to justincaselli.io/newsletter to sign up for that. It's a bi-weekly. So every other week I'm dropping this. And honestly, it's one of the most fun pieces of content I create, because my goal with the newsletter is to bring things to your inbox that you're not seeing everywhere else. So trying to find marketing or planning ideas or resources for us as advisors that's not being regurgitated by everybody else. So for me, it's fun because I'm learning a lot, but then it's also the challenge of finding something that you haven't seen before. So be
I'm
sure
gonna
to subscribe to
sign up
that.
for that.
All right. Well, Samantha, thank you again for the time. Always enjoyable to talk to you about this stuff. And maybe we'll have to do an annual episode where we talk about the new things each year. So
I love
we'll
it.
get you back.
Definitely.
All right. Well, everybody go follow Samantha. Check out 20 over 10 if you need to get your website redone or if you need some help with your content marketing. I would not have had you on if I didn't believe in your company, what you guys do. So
Thank you.
check them
It
out
was
as
so
well.
fun being here.
All right. Have a great weekend. And everybody, thanks for listening and watching. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.